After that, it was high time to bring some spice to Kim's family life. Why I emailed a copy of Madeline's and his necking picture to his wife with the comment, "Dear Elizabeth Storbin, I happened to find this picture in a book, and as both your husband and my cheating wife spent the last night at the same hotel, it might been possible that something like that happened again. If Kim, when back home, has spots of unwashable green color on his body, the color is from my wife's. See what I altered for a trap for the cheating wife and her lover. Best regards, Robert Johnson." About 1 hour later, Kim's wife called me for further information. She had a very pleasant and sensual voice, though she made it very clear that my email was a real surprise for her, and the picture could be from some sort of innocent situation and could hardly be regarded as evidence about cheating. I agreed and told her that nothing was for sure yet, but my wife and obviously somebody else had got caught in my color trap, and it was a good guess that it might been her husband due to his earlier interest for Madeline. Elizabeth got me interested about her sexy voice, but was she an innocent victim for a stupid cheating husband or AB who caused his actions? However, we agreed to keep in touch if she found any green color on her husband. Back home after work, an angry Madeline was already there. She had green palms and a big green spot on her right chin and on the edge of her lip. Probably on her lip, but she had heavy lipstick to cover it. Of course, I could only imagine the green-colored pussy she must have. She shouted at me, "Are you happy now after doing me to a laughing stock among my coworkers?" I replied with a low voice, "No, not at all, because today is one of the worst days in my whole life. A crushed family is nothing to be happy about. At least not in my opinion. Why are you complaining? You got a night together with your lover boy, and from now on you can have him full-time forever." Madeline got a surprised expression in her face and asked, "What do you mean by that?" "Your cheating during last night terminated this marriage, and I'm sorry for our innocent children who are getting a lot of problems because of it," I told her. Then I gave her the divorce papers and said, "It doesn't matter for the divorce if you sign or not, but you'll save a fair amount in lawyer expenses if you'll agree with the written conditions and sign papers right now. If you're enjoying my content, consider joining my Patreon community. By becoming a patron, you'll get access to full parts of my videos much earlier than everyone else. Plus, you'll be supporting me to create even more awesome content for you. Check out the link in the description to join now." She began to cry and sobbed, "I love you, and you are the father of my children. Please don't do that to us. Please let us be a happy family again. A loving wife doesn't act as conference W, and it depends on the DNA tests if I'm the father of your children," I said. Madeline screamed, "Oh my God," and rushed to our bedroom. Elizabeth Storbin called me a few minutes later saying that her husband had green palms and several green marks on his belly. After confessing his affair with my wife, he was now packing his suitcases. Elizabeth and I agreed to meet the next day in a park for sharing further information. I wondered if the hotel would charge him for the ruined bedding. I went to the park alone, and 10 minutes after the meeting time, a very handsome woman in her early 30s came towards me together with a small boy. She was a very beautiful woman with sparkling eyes, what surprised me because I had expected to meet some kind of AB. I thought maybe the boy was a guarantee that I would not try to force her to do anything. "Elizabeth Storbin, I presume." "Yes, and you ought to be that nasty Robert Johnson who crushed my marriage with your green color? Your husband and my wife crushed our marriages. He must be complete insane for cheating such a pretty wife and create serious family problems," I said. She and her boy Kevin accepted my invitation to a nearby cafe where Kevin, after some cakes and fauna, found a playroom and went there. We adults continued our talking. I told her, "I have to confess that you are quite different from that woman whom I expected to see today, and it is no doubt that your husband must have been stupid for doing what he did." She gave me a strange look, smiled, and replied, "Sorry to make you disappointed if you had expected to meet a real B." I said, "I expected something like that, but it is no disappointment to me." Then she wanted to know everything about Madeline's cheating, and I told her the truth about no background sound from a bar and her messed hair when she came to the hospital. I even told about finding C in drawer and fixing them with color. Elizabeth told me about her difficulties to decide about a divorce or not. The third time I told Elizabeth how lovely she was, she obviously got enough and interrupted me by saying, "Sorry, my friend. If you're trying to talk me into some kind of a revenge you are hiking at a wrong place. I got the message and replied with a smile. Ever heard about love at first sight? I'm not a teenager any longer, so for me that is out of question. I kept smiling and said, but you almost look like a teenager. Not even I believed such feelings could happen to me in my age. But I must confess to that my opinion in that matter changed today when I met you. Good try, but nothing such will ever happen. I accept what you say and promise to be a loyal friend during this mess and skip all attempts to push it further. We can support each other as friends. I told her, and she agreed to that. Elizabeth's boy had seen a poster from a circus and wanted to go there. I suggested her we should go there next day together with our children. Elizabeth really surprised me by saying, yes, it would be fun. Back home, Madeline's parents were waiting for me and did their best attempts to get me to cancel my plans for divorce. I told them that I didn't care if they accepted cheating in their own relation, but such behavior was out of question in my marriage. Rupert didn't cheer up when he got my thanks for demanding shared economy for Madeline, and me wanted our divorce to a piece of cake. It only remained to agree shared custody for our children. Before leaving my house, Rupert surprised me by asking me if it was okay for me that he assisted Madeline to buy my share of the house, so the children could remain in their old home if their parents didn't got back to common senses. I told Rupert that it was okay for me, but the sale of my part, or the whole house, would go according to an estate agency fair market valuation of the price. Of some reason, Rupert didn't look happy at all when he understood that the house wouldn't be any bargain for his daughter. The circus with Elizabeth and her kid was a real bingo, and the day got even better when she invited me for coffee and my kids for lemonade with cakes after the circus. While our kid were playing, she asked me with a smile on her face, "Did I offended you when that love at first sight trick didn't work, as you may expected? That love is for real, and not any trick, and I was afraid for being avoided by you as a silly stalker because I dared to tell you the truth." I replied with humility. She gave me a strange look before saying that Kim would live with his parents for a week or two until she had decided about divorce or not. I, in my turn, told her that my divorce papers were written and my next step would be to find an apartment because my in-laws and ex asked to buy me out from my house. Elizabeth told me that she had wanted one more child, but Kim had refused to agree to that, but if he got a second chance, there wouldn't be any no accepted by her in that matter. I couldn't resist to offer her my assistance and said, "That's no problem, not at all. Let me volunteer to that mission and I can promise that we'll fix it in no time. You ought to know that a baby means much more than the conception. Do you volunteer even to all other duties connected with that child?" She asked me. Of course. Now she had got a serious look in her face when she asked, "Are you serious, and did you really understand and mean what you promised to do?" I understand and always keep my words, but it is up to you to decide what to do and who you prefer to do it with. Now we got interrupted by the kids and nothing further was said about Elizabeth's plans for her future. Back home again, when thinking about Elizabeth, I was rather sure that Kim would get his second chance within a week. But later in the evening, I got a text message from her reading, "Did you really speak the truth to me earlier today?" My short reply read, "Yes, I did. Papers written and filed tomorrow. Real estate company contacted. A child together with you would be great." The next day I did my errands and sent Elizabeth a text message what told her about that. The real estate company is owned by one of my mole friends who promised me a good price. Even in divorce, I will not cheat my wife. I told him I wanted a fair and honest price. Elizabeth replied with a text message saying that Kim and she would meet at a pub after their works for clearing up some family matters, and that would probably be his last chance to save their marriage if he agreed to her conditions. I had no comments to that, and Madeline was angry as a wasp because I had filed for divorce before she got time to read the papers that had been available for her during the whole weekend. Of course, it wasn't kind of me to get a value for our house for sale without waiting for her permission. She got ashen gray when I told her the expected price level we could get if we sold it and split the money. She had right in that matter, but I couldn't let her slow down our separation or let Rupert throw me out from my house without paying the right price for that pleasure. She screamed, "How can you do that to me? We are still married and have 2 children. Don't we owe them a serious attempt to marriage counseling for saving our family?" I replied, "How in the hell could you F that Sturbin, though I begged you to skip it and gave you serious warning at the evening before you went there? No counselor on this earth can make such arrogance and disrespect you showed me undone. Plus, you've gone back to being a total B to me like you were before." I think this behavior is the real you. Doesn't matter what I said just then. She had the right in that matter. Marriage counselors can fix a lot of marriages even after a cheating, but everything I had told Elizabeth about the love at the first sight had been true for me. All my hopes and dreams about the future were about Elizabeth, and why emotionally I was as much cheater as Madeline. It was still obvious that Elizabeth had Kim as her first choice, and I knew that my only option for the time being was to wait in the background. Even if she did forgive Kim, he would find out rather soon that she had an ace in her sleeve if he did any mistakes. Kim had a great opportunity to fix his marriage that evening, and I could only wait for a message from Elizabeth telling me that. Elizabeth's short message came a few minutes before 8 o'clock and read, "Kim and I agreed about divorce." I replied, "It's a big step with many feelings. I love you and please call me anytime if you need to talk." Her reply came a minute later. "Many thanks. Love you too. We'll talk tomorrow." Elizabeth rang me at my job the next morning and said that Kim had been in a very arrogant mood during their meeting and hadn't said much for solving their problems. He demanded her to take him back and skip all plans about a second child. Why she had told him that she would rather divorce than go on as before and pretend that nothing had happened. He surprised her by saying that a divorce was okay for him, and she could always call him if she regretted losing the best man she ever could find. He had got confused when Elizabeth had told him that from now on he had to compete with Madeline Johnson's soon-to-be ex if she wanted her back again. Then, a bit worried, Elizabeth asked if it had been right of her to mention my name and if everything I had told her earlier was still valid. I said, "I love you, Elizabeth, and no need for us to keep that as a secret. Of course, I'll keep my words." She sounded happy and suggested us to meet at pub after our jobs. Madeline must got some gossip from Kim because she rang me 10 minutes later shouting, "What do you mean by having an affair with Elizabeth Sturbin instead of going to counseling with your own wife? Are you really the right woman to ask me that question? However, we don't have any dirty affair as you and Elizabeth's husband. We will act in the daylight if we get paired up." I told her and she hung up. Madeline was right. Her cheating had caused a complete weird situation. A sane average man had done all possible efforts for saving his marriage to her. Madeline, in some respects, wasn't any bad woman, beautiful, hard-working with a good job and a good mother to our children. Just not a good wife for me. I wanted to skip her for a woman I hardly knew anything about. Like a drowning man reaches for the first thing he sees. No doubt that it was a gambling on a high level, but you'll never win if you don't dare to take a risk.